let's get going here.
Sure.
There's many things that I would like to cover. Yeah, man, let's dive into it. And first off, Houston, welcome back to the
Yes.
show. I think it's your
Thank
fourth
you.
time on. Yeah, fourth. So we had two chats. Then you and Will and I had a chat about neoliberalism and the end of the world. And
Yes.
then yeah, this is number four.
And you've been on my show once,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
true. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're at five then altogether.
Yeah.
Um, Wild times, long
Are you
time.
recording and everything? Just
Yeah, I'm going now.
okay. All right. All right. All
Um, so, so fucking before we get to GameStop, which I'm sure we will cover, before we get there, FTX, like, what the fuck, man? Like, just
Crimes.
QuickBooks for accounting on $1 billion company, like QuickBooks. Like, what the fuck was going on there? And then they were like, what was it? They were all renting an apartment, all 10 of them together, in some
Yeah,
like,
like a $90 million penthouse,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and they were
And
in
they're
a
having like
10-way
polycule
fucking, yeah, orgies and shit. Like,
of just let's just face it. Like, if you're a billionaire, this is what you're pulling.
I mean, it,
Eh,
if they hadn't, you know, I don't know if I'd use the word defrauded, but if they hadn't lost people billions of dollars cumulatively, I'd have been fine with it. But that was the
yeah.
real sticking point for me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that my second or third show I ever did, the like when I made my own podcast after you got me famous, um, uh, was all about like crypto's the Wild West. There are no regulations, and everyone's about to get screwed. And we're seeing it just domino after domino after domino is going over. The first big one was Luna to explode, and it was exactly the same thing that they were taking your money, you'd buy a crypto, and you'd stake it on their exchange, and they would magically, give you this interest rate that was absolutely insane, 20 or 30% returns on your money, and it was all Ponzi. They would just take money from other people, put that in your account, and then they would find some more, and they ran out of people. Uh, FTX was doing the same thing. So if they're doing even worse, they were also just taking your money and straight up telling you had crypto in your account and there was nothing in there. Um, and now it looks like Binance is probably doing the same thing. We've got Silvergate, the only bank that would deal with anyone. They're going down. Genesis is going down. Tether's probably about to implode and just take out the entire crypto market in general. Uh, I like things for some reason are flying high right now. Like everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin's back above 22,000, and they're all like congratulating themselves. But it's gonna crash again. I mean, like
You
any
think
day
so?
now.
Well, right. What
Oh
what
yeah,
makes what makes you say that about Bitcoin?
Tether.
Tether.
Tether's a ticking time bomb. Uh, they so May of 2021, the Department of Justice and some auditors went looking for the cash that's supposed to back Tether, and it doesn't exist. So at the time, there should have been $69 billion in this one account in the British Virgin Islands. That should have been all the cash that was backing Tether, because people pay money to Tether. Tether gives them this digital currency. Use that digital currency to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or anything else, right? And when they went looking, they found 3 cents on the dollar in that account. The 69 billion was just missing. Today, that number's over like 80, 85 billion that's missing. And a lot of what Tether's been doing, apparently, is they'll mint these US dollar Tether coins that are worth $1. They'll mint as many as they want. And then they'll use that money to either buy their own Bitcoin, or they'll give it to one of the major exchanges, to FTX or Binance, or whatever. Hey, here's a billion Tether coins. Do what you will with it. And they'll use that to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. So what may happen, especially with the fact that these banks can't translate from dollars to crypto anymore. Like, I don't know if you saw the thing on the bank that I think Binance is using can only do $100,000 or more per transaction. They can't do the small transactions anymore of fiat currencies into crypto. And I still don't really understand what's actually happening there. But basically, good luck for an average person to do anything in crypto with the cash they have. And so if there is a big crash, people try to pull their money out, the first thing they're going to try and pull out is Tether, because the Tether is the easiest thing to translate into US dollars. But it only takes maybe $2-3 billion of people pulling their cash out before Tether doesn't have any more money. It's gone. And so if no one can get their cash out, then Bitcoin is worthless, right?
Yeah.
Because as much as crypto
moment,
people want to,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. As much as people want to say like, oh, it's transcending fiat and like we don't need fiat anymore. You still need to like pay your mortgage, your rent, get gas, buy groceries, and you can't do that with crypto right now. So you are going to need cash at some point to do something, and all the value of your coins, when you look into your account, it shows you how much it's worth by showing you the fiat equivalent. So yes, fiat's very important to understanding the value of this coin. And if no one can buy in anymore because they can't get a Tether coin, then how are they going to get your crypto? How are you going to find the next person to buy crypto to make the value stay up if you can't translate your fiat currency into crypto dollars, right?
So like, right,
so
just theoretically, right? What happens if what you said happens and people start pulling their Tether from the exchanges, right?
Well,
then
so much of
sorry, I wasn't finished the question.
So much of the value in crypto is let's face it, the greater fool theory, in that you buy it hoping that later someone else comes along to buy it from you, right? And we're getting to the point where we're running out of fools. we're just running out of new people to buy crypto.
Yeah.
Like the bros who are into it have gotten into it. Everyone else has seen like several crashes happen since then, and they're like, I'm good. NFTs, we saw billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on these NFTs. All of them are worthless. I mean,
I saw a great clip of Paris Hilton and Jimmy Kimmel discussing the thing that the Bored Apes
so
last
cringe.
year. I know.
Yeah, this is my monkey. Oh, it's really cool. No, it's not, Jimmy. It's a stupid monkey made by a bunch of neo-Nazis. Like cool. Yeah, so and like much of that was a laundering scheme anyway. You have people that would use one wallet to pay a bunch of money to their own wallet to make the value of this thing look really high, and they'd avoid taxes. I mean, so like crypto, I've said this many times, crypto has three uses: to pay for crimes. If you want to pay for an assassination or a drug deal or whatever, it's a great way to move money across borders. To money launder, if you want to, it's a really great way. If you are a gangster in Los Angeles and you need to move millions of dollars to your triad boss in Hong Kong, crypto just ding cents, right? And the third reason is speculation, because you just can't use it for everyday transactions. Because why would you want to be that guy, like the Domino's dude who spent 11,000 Bitcoin on a Domino's pizza in like 2008 or whatever? Like, why would you want to be that guy? Oh, cool! I bought a medium with pepperoni and sausage for $50 million. Awesome! I'm that dude. So people are not going to use it for these transactions. Plus, the gas fees that happen are just insane on various cryptocurrencies. I made not fake crypto. I made a crypto coin as a joke for that show I did on crypto. I was like, hey, I made 100 million Problemo coins, and I'm going to give them away to everyone who's on my Patreon. And then I went to try and give them away, and the gas fees are so expensive, it's going to cost me $100,000 just to give away this coin that's worthless.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I still have to give them away. So like, if I want to buy a 99-cent Arizona iced tea, right? I want to go to a store and I want to use my Ethereum to buy that 99-cent iced tea. It's going to cost me $70 in gas fees to buy that $1 iced tea. So it's it's not set up in a way right now where you can actually use it as a currency,
Mm.
and the value fluctuates so much. Like, do you want to invest in Turkish lira or Turkish dollars or whatever? Italian lira is the Turkish
No,
dollars.
it's definitely Turkish lira. You're right.
Is it Turkish lira?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So you
I
want
got some right here on the wall.
okay, okay, all right. I just want to make sure I'm not getting it wrong. But like, you're facing 90% inflation rates. Like that's not a sound currency to be invested in if you put $1 in it and all of a sudden it's worth 10 cents. That happens overnight on these cryptocurrencies. On top of the fact that the Tether coins, which were used prior to 2018, Tether was used to purchase 80% of all Bitcoin. So
Didn't
and
know
it's
that.
not backed by it, the money's gone. It's in someone's, they moved it around from account to account all over the world, and $80 billion is just poof gone. Uh, and today, I think it's around 55% of all crypto transactions are done using US dollar Tether coin as the basis for those transactions. Which, if that cash is gone, then how are you ever going to sell this coin again?
Mm.
Uh, and because we saw so many liquidations over the last year. At some point back in May, there was like 250,000 liquidations a day happening in crypto accounts because of how much margin these folks have been on. And we're, we think it's bad with hedge funds, right? The hedge funds can have a 30-to-1 margin. With a crypto account, you could do 100-to-1. And so we had guys that had $75 million in Luna, right? And they had used as collateral, taken 100-to-1, 7.5 billion that they were trading with, gone overnight. So that guy doesn't have any money anymore. Like he's not doing any trades. There's a whale that's just disappeared altogether. I don't think in the near future crypto's going to do very well. Whatever shakes out, that may be a difference maker. As soon as like governments start to regulate it and treat it like an actual security, and then they can like go to these big exchange companies, the Binances, the FTXs, or whatever, and like say, hey, why don't you open your books and show us everything right now? Because this regulator is going to throw you in prison if you don't. We need that because it's the Wild West. There's no regulations. I could make a Tether coin right now, say it's worth $1, print 50 kajillion of them, post them to some Uniswap or whatever, and then get it all of a sudden trading on an exchange. As long as I have, I don't know, $40,000-$50,000 to post it to something like Uniswap, I can get that thing onto an exchange, and all of a sudden I can say, yeah, these things are all worth $1, and then people will use them like $1, and I can sell them for $1, and I don't have to have any proof that I've actually have the money in an account somewhere backing it all. I can just say I do. People go, oh, good enough for me. It's there's gonna be so much more crime that gets uncovered and all this.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
But right, so
I mean,
I can hear the maxis in my ear, right? I can.
yeah,
I've spoken to enough of them. And they would say that, okay, all of these people running the exchanges, trying to use it for speculation, they're all crooks and speculators. They're no better than the financiers that came before them, right?
yeah,
They're just the Ken Griffins of the fucking digital
yeah.
world, right? But what about, like, do you buy the idea that it's possible to have some sort of currency that is not government like run, that like the internet could at some point, like, and I'm not saying it has to be BTC either, like
Yeah.
like your guy Craig Wright give me some interesting fucking things to think about with his BSV sort of vision, because he was like, look, it has to be able to handle like 10 billion transactions a second, and the gas fees have to be like the tiniest
Oh
fraction
yeah.
of a penny. And he was like, look, that's where we have to go. Stop pretending that that's where we're at. And yeah, well, I mean, like he said, very
Yeah.
similar things to you. So, like, do you see that there being a point in the future in which we can have a currency that is not, that we're not at the whims of the central banks, and it's not governments can't just like decide, well, we're just gonna we need some money, let's just print some more, let's go for it. Like,
Yeah.
do you think it's possible?
Um, Theoretically, sure. Logistically, I don't know. Like, people talk a lot about how, like, oh, the U.S. dollar is going to be dethroned as the global currency, and they want to like bring up the BRICS nations,
Yeah.
as like, oh, these people are going to be gold backed and they're going to be cool. But let's face it. Like, you got Russia, authoritarian dictator; China, totalitarian dictator; North Korea, totalitarian dictator; India, fascist;
Mm, yeah.
Saudi Arabia, theocratic dictator; Iran, theocratic dictator. Like, the people that are backing this thing are not democratic. They are dictators. Every last one of them. Modi technically elected, but let's face it, he wants to kill all the Muslims in the country and do those things. And like, yes, they represent a lot of people, but they don't represent good investments.
Yeah.
Like, slave labor and oppressed people aren't probably the greatest thing to like back as your currency. So there's gonna be fighting between that. But like, the US government's greatest export is dollars. That's why we have a trade deficit all the time, is because we print money and we send it around the world for other people to use. And if you're focused on a digital currency, that's great for people who have internet connections and electricity and stuff like that. But like, if you were a villager in rural, I don't know, Malawi, right? It does you no good. But if you have $100 in hard currency, you are the richest person in your village. So, like, the US being able to export that currency around the world means a lot to 3 billion impoverished people who need hard currency to do a lot of things that they can't do otherwise. And yeah, we're slowly bringing like regular internet and electricity and stuff to these people, but until they have access to first world levels of electricity and internet, they're not going to give a shit about Bitcoin and anything else. It's ones and zeros on a flash drive they have no use for. So that physical cash is still really, really, really important. The let's face it, US dollars used for all sorts of horrible things: drug dealers and warlords and oligarchs and everything else, and mafia.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sort of rubles and yen.
yeah, exactly. It's like, but if you are, I don't know, a warlord in the Congo, right? Your money man may move around digital currency and your offshore banks and stuff, but the real power you have at home is going to be the US dollars you have to pay your warriors, to pay your smugglers and your foreman at your diamond mine or whatever. Like, they're going to want the real US dollars to actually do their job. So there's going to be still a very strong fiat like foundation to everything. And yeah, like, gas fees that cost 500 times what it is you're trying to purchase are stupid. Bitcoin, they're trying to move Bitcoin to this Lightning network and whatnot, but even then, it can only handle, I don't know, what, like 700 transactions a minute or something.
Yeah, something like
that. It's like, cool. We have that many transactions happening for beer at a football game, right?
Yeah.
So how are you going to rectify this if you got to wait 19 hours for your transaction to go through because it's just backlogged, because it's being used as an actual currency? And there's a reason why Visa and MasterCard and American Express have these networks, because they're built and they're robust. And yeah, they cost 2% per transaction, but they happen. And then you can move this volume of people through the grocery store and the mall and the stadium concession stand and whatnot. You can't do right now with these digital currencies, which you think that they would have built into this. Like, this was thought of ahead of time. We're in the modern or in the future. Why didn't you think about the fact that you're going to have 8 billion people all needing to use it at the same time? Your local sewer system learned this lesson 200 years ago. But yes, sometimes people all need to go to the bathroom at 7 a.m. and they all flush the toilet at the same time. So we need to figure out this throughput, and until we get there, like I I just don't see it being used as a traditional currency outside of those three instances that I outlined of crime, laundering, and speculation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are places like you mentioned. There's like the Lightning Network's being used in like El Salvador, and people can take it. I don't know how
Yeah.
much like they're actually using it. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult to get a handle on that. And I see places. I think it's Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean that are using Bitcoin Cash, and lots of places. But and I occasionally see things like I saw a Bitcoin ATM in Warsaw and chuckled. But like yeah,
It's a novelty.
yeah,
It seems. Yeah.
it's yet to make a jump to something that like because I have my Bitcoin and I might fuck selling it. Like you never know. Like I
Yeah.
don't need the money right now. We'll see what happens. But like I'm yet to see it proved to me that it can actually become the thing that the maxis say. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're wrong, but right now I haven't seen that. And yeah, so we'll see where it goes. Um,
Yeah, the I saw this interesting little documentary on El Salvador, and they went to uh, they went to these vendors that the hot dog stand on the side of the street or churros or whatever they're selling, and they accept Bitcoin. So they try to do a transaction, it just takes forever, and it just doesn't work, and it takes forever, it doesn't work, and the guys are like, just give me some pesos, dude. Like,
yeah,
I
man.
got customers, let's go.
Yeah, they got
And
they
and then
got to
you have
compete with like ding done, like
yeah,
the
yeah.
it has to compete
And
with that.
yeah, and Visa and Google Pay and Samsung Pay and Apple Pay and all these things, they all do it right now, doing exactly the same thing that Bitcoin's claiming is going to be the future, but they're doing it already.
Yeah,
And then you have places like El Salvador where the president has borrowed at like 20% interest to dump the wealth of this nation into Bitcoin, which has lost 65% of its value since he started doing it. And he's like, I'm buying the dip. And then it drops another $10,000. And he owes 20% interest on this thing.
oh god,
So
I didn't
he's
realize
basically
that.
bankrupting the entire country buying Bitcoin as it's collapsing. Like, yeah, sure. If it goes to $1 million a coin, awesome, you did it, buddy. But it's not. It's dying, and it's dying really, really, really badly. And they're losing money like crazy.
That's bad if it's 20% interest.
Yeah. Look up the bonds they're taking out. It is rough, and they're facing insolvency at like the levels that Lebanon and Sri Lanka have been facing because they can't pay their bills. So we'll see how long El Salvador lasts as this Bitcoin mecca. Because again, to get their Bitcoin, they have to use a whole lot of fiat currency to do it. These things are so tied together; they're not going to escape each other anytime soon. Uh, because your paycheck comes in, pounds, dollars, euros, whatever,
Yeah,
and then you're taking a step along the way where you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy into this exchange, and then they take a huge chunk of that out of your paycheck, right? Take their 7% transaction fee or whatever, and you buy your coins, and then when you buy your coins, they take out your gas fee out of that. So in the end, do you really have as much money as you claim? I mean, U.S. dollar has 8% inflation. Uh, but Bitcoin since last year has 300% inflation. So
yeah, yeah. That's about
yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not quite the inflation hedge we were promised.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but they'll say zoom out. But anyway, so the next thing I want to ask actually, and while we're on this sort of crypto topic, I think we can talk about is the FTX GameStop tokens thing, because I looked at this and it seems like there was these tokens that they claimed were trading, and it seems like they claimed that they had them backed by, I think it was FTX Switzerland, if I
Mhm.
if I
Yeah, the
remember
Swiss bank
correctly.
of some
Yeah,
kind. Yeah,
And then someone looked and they had never ever registered any securities or cash basically to that. So
Yep.
have they just been like saying they have GameStop shares and trading these tokens and selling these
Yep.
tokens? And is it literally just like they've done naked shorting, but without the middleman? They've just said,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, we've got this. You say you can
Yeah.
have it."
The nature of an unregulated security, right? Like again, I can go to GitHub. I can get the code for minting like an ERC20 token. I can call it GME. I can call it AMC. I can call it whatever I want. I can mint as many as I want. I can take that token with a few $1,000s in Ethereum. I can post it to Uniswap or another type of swap and get that thing trading at the whatever value I want,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can say, oh, right in the code, like, if GameStop is at this price, this token is now this price. I can set up that whole code and then sell it to dummies. and a lot of those dummies, it's not that I don't want to say they're dummies. They might be in a nation that doesn't have access to U.S. stock trading, right? They might be somebody in a more rural third world place that wants to get in on MOAS and that stuff, but they can't open a brokerage account because they're in Nigeria or
Yeah.
Vanuatu, wherever they are, and so they're like, hey, I can on the internet that I can get 4 hours a day. I can actually hook up. I can get this Coinbase account or whatever, and I can buy this digital GME that's worth the same. And I think there's a lot of people that just they were told this is what it is, and it wasn't. It was just snake oil. It was flim flam, man. And like with MMTLP, this stock that we've been following because all sorts of weird stuff are happening. But there's 165 million shares. They minted 500 billion coins that represent this thing. So how are you going to have a 1-for-1 if there's 500 billion of them, right? And they just sell them at it's trading at $1. I'll sell it at $1. 500 billion, I've made $500 billion or whatever is potential out of that. And I think it's all just smoke and mirrors. It's
It's literally just fraud.
Yeah, it's just straight fraud. And this fraud happens all the time. Like if you have a gold mine you want to sell, right? You want to make sure that it's got the highest, assay of gold possible. So you do what's called salting the mine. You buy some gold, you throw it around the mine so anyone comes to inspect goes, oh, there's just gold laying around everywhere here. This place is worth a fortune. And that's an old tactic they used to do. So, like fraud isn't new. It's just this is a new way for them to do it.
Yeah.
It's just it's a twist. It's a twist on an old classic. And
Yeah.
you want a blanket.
Oh, the doggo's here. Awesome.
Yes.
Do you want to give the TLDR on the MMTPL thing? Because I am talking to someone tomorrow actually for the podcast about it. I'm talking to Bird Lady Roller Pigeons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So she's going to give me the real story. But do you want to give me the TLDR for people to preview that if they haven't heard about this story?
Yes. Just like any other stocks, this thing was naked shorted by money market makers and hedge funds and everything. Likely to the tune of billions of shares, at least 300 million, if not more. That's the censuses that have been done show that there's probably 300 million plus, and very likely more than 1 billion shares. And so this oil company is called Torchlight. They were during COVID when oil prices went negative, and people are like, oil prices went negative? Yeah, because no one was flying, no one was driving, no one was shipping anything. All this oil still getting pumped out of the ground. They had nowhere to store it, so they had to pay people just to take it off their hands, right? So oil went negative. And Torchlight is a prospective company. Like they've got a big giant oil field. It's got 3-4 billion barrels of oil, but they don't have the infrastructure yet to move it anywhere. and to pump in large quantities because they're still raising capital to like develop this field. So shorts went, delicious. Oil's negative. Let's hammer this company. And they shorted it down to, I don't know, 21 cents or something. I think was the lowest it had gone. And they're about to be delisted by the NASDAQ because they had been under $1 for too long. And along came Metamaterial, this Canadian tech company. And they said, hey, we want to be listed on the NASDAQ. You guys are about to die. Let's merge. We'll take your ticker and then we'll just sell off your oil assets and give everyone a special dividend who had your stock. And fortunately, I was like, okay. And so they did their merger. And when they merged, for every 2 Torchlight, you got 1 Metamaterial. And then you got, if you had Torchlight, you got a 1-for-1 of this preferred share, this preferred A stock that wasn't supposed to trade, that was going to represent holdings, like the assets of this oil field.
Okay.
And at the time, they're thinking when they sell out the oil field, everyone would get like $1 or $2 a share. And cool. Like I bought at 87 cents. I was thinking, okay, if I get $2 out of this, well, I just made more than 100%. I'm cool.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, oil started going, and so people started calculating, going, wait, this dividend might be like $20. This dividend might be $30. This dividend might be $40. Holy smokes! So like oil's over $100. This dividend could be as much as $100 a share. And so that was June 2021 when they did that merger. These non-tradable shares went to everyone's account who had Torchlight, and you're supposed to sit there. Like, can't trade. It's just going to sit there, and eventually they'll sell the oil fields, and those shares will turn to cash, and then you're done. Right?
Yeah.
Well, October 2021, all of a sudden it started trading. And everyone's like, wait a minute, why is this trading? This is supposed to trade. We were told this will not trade. This is not supposed to trade. And it started trading for like $3. And all of a sudden people are like, wait a minute, I can buy more. So they did. And people bought more and they bought more and they bought more and they bought more. They're going, what's weird? Metamaterial, the company that had merged and everything, they're now the parent company. They went to FINRA and they said, hey, FINRA, this isn't supposed to trade. FINRA's like, but it is. So, tough shit.
Wait, hang on.
What happened was,
hang on. Hold the phone there a second. So there was a share that shouldn't be traded.
Yeah.
And someone went to FINRA and went, yo, lads, this shouldn't be trading. So therefore, there's some shady, some sort of weird, quite possibly illegal activity going on. And FINRA were like, Pretty
much. GTX, which is this market maker that's owned by Ari Rubinstein, and I can't remember the name of the other one that he got to agree, because as long as you have 2 market makers or willing to trade something back and forth, you can create a market or something. Is basically what FINRA is saying. But if you look at the FINRA rules, if you want these 2 market makers to exchange something back and forth, you have to get the permission of the issuer. So Metamaterial never said, yeah, you can do it. What they did was they essentially forged documents from when Torchlight still existed, saying this is all, Torchlight wanted this stuff to trade, and they gave it to FINRA, and FINRA just rubber stamped it and allowed them to create a market. So this thing just started legally trading against FINRA's own rules, against the law, against the wishes of the company itself. And so, Metamaterial and the board, they're trying to figure out like how are we going to get this, because this is causing a problem for us. Like, we can't sell off the assets as long as this thing is tradable. So we need to get this thing on trade again. So this summer they issued an S1 to the SEC saying, hey, we want to make this a private company. We want to remove it from the exchange, make it private, and we're going to promise that we will not look for a buyer until it's private. And but let's happen. So they did it in July, and then SEC took its sweet time, took like 5 weeks, and so like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm gonna need you to make some amendments to this filing and submit again. So they make their amendments, submit again, and then they take another like 5 weeks. Like, okay, pretty good. There's a couple more things we want you to change. Now it's like October or whatever. Submitted a third time. So they submitted a third time, and like this is it. This is in November. Like, this is it. But since it's been now 4 months, we need you to send all of your updated financials for the last quarter, and then we can approve it. So somewhere around like November 25th, they finally said, SEC said, okay, you can go private. And the rules are they have to give at least a 15-day notice to the markets that they're going private. And so they did that. They said, okay, on the 12th of December, we stopped trading. On the 14th, we issue these new paper shares that are in a new company we're calling NextBridge, which is now the holdings company. This cannot trade. There's going to be no QSIP. It will not be on any exchange. If you trade it, we're going to shoot you in the face. I don't know what the exact rule will be, but like it's not going to be electronically traded, so you're not going to be able to do it.
Okay.
We're going to be private. We're private. We're private. We're private. We're private. And then they went to FINRA and said, "Hey, FINRA, you have to issue a corporate action to let the brokers know, like, because the brokers, they've got 10,000 tickers to take care of. They aren't paying attention to stuff. They need like be shaken and go, oh, I got to pay attention to this and be told this is going to stop trading. You're going to have to remove this ticker from all of your brokerages, and then you're going to issue these paper shares. And everyone's going to get these shares." So FINRA didn't do it. 2 weeks went by. And finally, on the 6th of December, 6 days before this whole thing's supposed to stop trading, there's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 12th, so 4 trading days left. They finally issue a corporate action saying, hey, guys, turns out this ticker is not going to be trading anymore. Because of settlement, if you buy before the 8th of December, you've got T+2, you'll get your NextBridge shares. If you buy after, the settlement is going to have to be up to whoever the seller is, and you have to figure that out for yourselves. And then the ticker is going to be canceled after trading on the 12th. They used the wrong term. It's not canceled. It's deleted. So they had to issue another one on the 8th, changing canceled to deleted because they mean two different things. If you cancel a share, it means like the company went bankrupt, doesn't exist anymore. Therefore, you have to pay back any of your short shares.
Yeah, they get banned
but if you say
Twitter
deleted,
and
yeah. So if you say deleted, it means like the stock still exists. It's just not on the exchanges. So they had to change that on the 8th.
Okay.
The brokerages were all saying, okay, so the last 2 days it's going to be closed position only because we got all these shorts out there. We got to close them all. So the 9th and the 12th are going to be all closing positions. So you're not going to be able to buy in because it's just going to be a pain in the ass for settlement and stuff. So closed position only. If you want to sell, you can sell. And we're going to make all these hedge funds and stuff under us close their positions. At midnight, morning of the 9th, FINRA, is what I believe, looked at the books, realized how many short positions there are, that there are 300 million to billions of short positions. We looked at the level 2 data of what people were listing their stocks for sale, which were in the thousands per share. Talking MOAS type numbers, 15,000 a share, 25,000 a share. This is what's being listed in the level 2s. And they went, oh my God, this is going to cost us trillions of dollars. This is going to crash the entire market. Like, this is potentially like a third of US GDP just listed in the level 2s on this one stock. And they went, oh crap, there's going to be an extraordinary event, halt all trading. And we're just going to halt trading until the ticker is deleted, and then everyone's going to get their shares, and everything's going to be all fine. Well, that means the shorts never got to close their positions. And if the shorts never close their positions, then no one can get their NextBridge shares because you're supposed to get this 1-for-1. And they only issued 165 million paper shares. But if there's a billion out there, then no one can actually get the shares they're promised. And so we're how many days? It's 25th. So we are 30, 40, almost 50 days, getting close to 50 days past issuance of these things. And no one has their shares.
Wait,
and
still?
So still, like a couple people managed to like transfer into a registered agent, but jumping through a lot of hoops. And the number of people who actually have like legit shares aren't very high. And a lot of the ones that did transfer discovered when they called the transfer agents, like, hey, also make sure my stuff are in there. And the transfer agent's like, actually, you don't have shares. They sent over these weird warrants. Like, we don't know what's going on because these aren't actual shares in the company. These are warrants, and we don't know what the broker is doing. So right now, you really can't guarantee that anyone has shares in this company. It's fucked up. And so
this is just fucking GameStop all over again.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But it's like with this tiny little, it's only 65,000 shareholders in this company
Yeah,
thereabouts, not like the 4 million or whatever
yeah,
might be in
yeah.
GameStop. Uh, and so there's some lawsuits that have been filed. There's one in Florida by this young woman, Rosa Tawil, and hers is really brilliant because uh, FINRA, because they're a self-regulatory regulating agency or organization, and they have this like power from Congress to like do this job that the government should be doing. They got certain protections about lawsuits, like you can't sue them for monetary damages because if you sue FINRA for monetary damages and you destroy FINRA, then FINRA can't do its job anymore. So there's
Well, it sounds like Finner can't do his fucking job anymore already.
exactly, yeah. So that's what she's suing for. She's suing for injunctive relief, meaning like, hey, FINRA, you owe us 2 days of trading. You have to make sure in a corporate action that you tell these brokers that they've got to close every short position there is. Because right now I'm being injured. I can't get my share, and the company may be forced to dilute what shares are there to continue making money or whatever. And I'm going to be injured because I never had the opportunity to be like, you know what, I want out because you took away my last 2 days of trading. And so she's filed this injunctive relief in Florida federal court to get this done. And I look at her arguments. I'm like, she's nailing it. And the FINRA response so far is FINRA's like, we're immune. Sorry. And but like, no, you're immune to monetary damages, not to just getting sued in general, because you can still violate the law and do things that aren't according to your own rules. Like you can still be sued. And FINRA is claiming their extraordinary event was they went, oh no, if there's 2 more days of trading, how are we going to get the settlement done by the 14th and get everyone their shares? It's not going to be able, we're not going to be able to do it. So obviously we got to stop trading. But as a result of them not having those last 2 days of trading, no one's gotten their shares. The settlement's been a nightmare. Uh, so they created a bigger problem than they otherwise would have. And so, you know, we're waiting to see if the judge says, you know what, yeah, you are going to have to do 2 more days of trading. And in that case, you have to release a corporate action saying, all right, you're going to have to reissue the QSIP for the stock. You're going to have to, set these 2 days for trading and trade. And it's going to be closed position only. So you're going to have to, let every one of these market makers and hedge funds that shorted the stock know that they're going to be fucked. You're going to liquidate their positions and you're going to liquidate the prime brokers, and you're probably have to tap the Federal Reserve and whatever else. Like it's so that's what we're looking for. It would be definitely a precedent setting case and could be a catalyst like no one ever expected to basically trigger everything else. Because if you're liquidating all these hedge funds, they all shorted all the same companies. So if you're liquidating them because of this stupid position they have on this little known oil company, then you're also going to have to close out their positions on AMC and GME and
Yeah.
Nokia and everything else. So we're looking to see what type of guy this federal judge is, and if he's, well, the law says this, so we're going to do that, then MOAS, baby. But if he's also like, well, if we do that, it's going to cost the U.S. economy just $3 trillion on this one ticker, that seems bad. So no. Um, like,
We're gonna
what
find
type of
out.
dude is he? Yeah. So that's kind of the shortest version I can give
Yeah, no,
of
that's fascinating.
yeah.
People
Yeah.
tune in next episode if you want to see or if you want to hear more about this, because yeah, I'm gonna be talking to someone who's been absolutely balls deep in it. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, well, it sounds like the hedge funds are playing another game of fuck around and find out.
Oh yeah.
I like how I sometimes wonder how fucking long they can get away with this bullshit. But it seems like for as long as there are people with no integrity running all of the regulatory agencies, which
Yeah.
seems to be the only sorts of people who who end up in any position of power within them. Because what I would assume is anyone who would go in with like any sort of decency or moral standing or desire to uphold the law,
Yeah.
will go in and go, what the fuck, and leave after 12
Yeah.
months, if
Well,
that.
I would love to see, you know, laws in the US that disallow people who work in the financial industry from ever having a job regulating the financial industry. So if you were, a hedge fund manager and work at an investment bank, whatever, you could never work at the SEC or at Treasury or anything else. Like, it should be your head of the Treasury should be someone who, like, I don't know, runs the School of Finance for the University of Chicago, or is a securities lawyer who teaches classes at Harvard or whatever. Like, it should be somebody who's an academic, whose entire focus is the law and regulation, and not, hey, in 2 years I'll get my board position back at JP Morgan, everything's going to be cool. That should not be at all the motivation. It shouldn't be if you are an enforcement officer for the SEC and you leave to go take a job on Wall Street, you can never come back. Right? And if you had that job on Wall Street, you can never go to the SEC. It should be, you get to do one tour of duty, baby. And if you leave, that's it. You're never coming back. You're gone. And we will have somebody else do that job. Because there's just so much incest that happens. And so
yeah, I'm curious.
I don't know if we'll ever get that.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this. I don't know. Did they call it the Pelosi bill? I think
that's what Josh Hawley's calling it.
Yeah.
And for a decade now they've been trying to get this thing in there, and it's one of those few bills that actually has bipartisan support in the U.S.
That's why I'm curious.
You have a bunch of Democrats that do insider trading, you have a bunch of Republicans do insider trading. Then you got, on both sides, two groups that are horrified by it. So,
or aren't very good at it.
Yeah. But I think there is an outside chance that you can get this thing passed. But if it does, it'd be the first bipartisan bill we've passed in the U.S. in fucking 30 years or something.
Yeah, like literally. Yeah, probably since that fucking immigration bill that was done with was it the Gang of Six or something like that? The Gang of some number. I can't remember how many it was, but Lindsey Graham was in there, and I can't remember who else. But there was, I think,
like McCain and Schumer. Yeah.
But that was probably the last time, right? That was fucking like 20 years ago at least.
Yeah, it's been so partisan that you really can't find anything to get both sides jazzed about.
Well, I mean, you see, I'm hoping you can combine the Democrats with some integrity and the Republicans that hate Pelosi. And hopefully there'll be enough of them.
Yeah. So, we'll see how far it goes. I mean, it gets proposed every year, and every year there's some powerful dirtbag on a committee that goes no, and pushes it down again. I'm in the process of trying to organize. I guess it'd be a lobbying group or a super PAC or something, but I want a specific piece of legislation that I'm writing, and I'm calling it the Retail Investor Protection Act. And it's going to be a broad piece of legislation, and essentially, I'm going to lobby. I'm going to go to DC, and I'm going to talk to as many members of Congress and the Senate as I can, and say, hey, we need to eliminate naked shorting. One, get no more naked shorting. I don't care. Reg show out the window. You sell a share that doesn't exist, you're going to prison. You're paying a fine. It's going to be so astronomical that you'll never want to do it. Two, no high frequency trading. When you buy a stock, you have to hold it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something before you're ever allowed to sell it again, to keep these trading computers from bouncing the same share back and forth a million times in nanoseconds and manipulating the price of the market. No more of that. No more payment for order flow. No more dark pools. If you're going to trade a stock, it's going to go through a lit exchange, and we're going to see in real time what that stock is selling for, right? No more these weird debt swaps. So a lot of the FTDs that are out there, they got 35 days to make good on it. Well, they just trade it with somebody. They trade that debt with somebody else's bad debt, and it resets the entire clock. And so they can permanently just trade this hot potato around forever, theoretically, and never have to close out a position. There's a few other things in there, but essentially just leveling the playing field so that you can't have someone like Citadel who's running 40% of all trades through their market maker, and then very obviously front loading their trades with their hedge fund. And okay, this stock's going to trade for a whole bunch. How about hedge fund? You just buy a bunch of it right now, and then we'll make a ton of money in the next 40 nanoseconds when all these retail traders, we process the retail trades. So, just leveling that playing field and making it so that retail investors aren't absolutely screwed in all these things. Because as the system is now, it is designed specifically to destroy American business. Because if you're allowing these short attacks to happen, they will look for any company they can destroy to be able to make a quick buck. And that's not a great way to have the chief motivator of your entire economy be like, let's murder the economy. Let's make sure we lay off those 40,000 workers and sell off all those assets and tooling and everything else. Because I just made myself a quick buck. Me and the bros are going to go golfing. That's not how an economy should run. We should have an economy that fosters investment and fosters building these brands and making them, as global as possible. And like we need a system of support, not a system of destruction. And so that's kind of the big thing I'm trying to work towards now. I got to figure out, how to file, not go to jail for taking money, and lots of other things that I don't know how to do yet that I got to learn.
Well, I mean, you laid out earlier how you can make plenty of money off of people.
Yeah.
Just make sure you do it.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to screw over all the retail investors, take all their money, and then I'm going to fix the system with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And to be honest, the naked shorting is just like one bit of it. Like you got
Exactly.
private equity, fucking speculation. You got,
I mean, the private equity alone right now is destroying our entire food supply. Like we've got like 4 companies that control all the meat and dairy almost in the entire world at this point. And they are pushing out all the small players or buying them up. Like we had these brothers out of Brazil, the Batistas. They bribed the Brazilian government to take out billions in loans that they didn't qualify for, and they used those billions of dollars to buy up like all the meat producers they could in the United States. And so, like, it's you have what's called a monopoly of these companies, but also it's I can never say this right, monopsony, which is there's only a few buyers. So like there's only a couple of grocers now left in the whole US. You've got Albertsons, Kroger, which are merging, and you got like Walmart, and that's pretty much it. And Walmart can say to these meat producers, like, hey, lower your prices or we're not going to buy your meat. And the meat producer's like, well, we can't afford to lower our prices. We've lowered, we're paying slave labor basically to like pack this chicken. Yeah. And Walmart says, yeah, but if I don't buy your meat, then who will? And they go, oh shit. I guess we have to like start losing money like crazy because that's the only way we'll get any money. And so the monopsony is when you have only a few buyers for a particular thing because you don't have no diversity in the market anymore. And the Safeway, Albertsons, and Kroger are all merging to make essentially one grocery chain across the entire United States. And this is the type of like lack of competition that leads to, egg prices being insane. Like, yeah, there's bird flu.
It's the literal monopolies that they complain about with communism. It's literally they're literally creating the exact same fucking conditions at home.
Yeah, and bird flu. Yeah, it's happening. It's affecting these things. But guess what? Egg producers are making the highest profits they've ever made. So, there's only like 2 egg producers in the whole country. They all these small farmers are beholden to these like very few consolidated companies, these food companies. And it's when you fuck with the food supply, you lose the people, right? Yeah. Like
even Joffrey Baratheon learned that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like yeah. So there's going to have to be some sort of antitrust battle, and that basically breaks the stuff up into 1,000 different pieces. I mean, it's not going to be enough to be like, okay, we're going to break you up into three companies. You're going to be a chicken company, a beef company, and a dairy company or something. That's not going to work. You're going to have to be like, okay, there's going to be 1,000 beef companies, 1,000 chicken companies, 1,000 pork companies, 1,000 dairy companies. And you're just going to have to just break it up into a million billion little pieces and then put a cap. Like no one can control more than 10% of the market, something like that. And whenever you get to 10% of the market, we're going to break you up into 500 more companies again. Congratulations.
I mean, it might be the only way to stop these corporate monopolies from growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the last thing I want to,
okay,
freak me out about the fucking food supply. The last thing, thankfully, Northern Ireland will be fine. I always come back to my homeland. We have nothing but tiny little small farmers, basically. And
there you go.
There's one big company, and apart from Moy Farm, who are actually owned by, I think, the same fucking Brazilian conglomerate. But we still have plenty of like small farms, thankfully. But the last thing I wanted to ask about was this fucking Biden classified documents thing. Because first, and I guarantee probably most of the fucking former presidents and all these people have got fucking classified shit somewhere. But like first there was the Trump had stuff in Mar-a-Lago. Then there was Biden had stuff in his garage. Then Mike Pence has just admitted that he has stuff somewhere. Like what the fuck is going on here? Like, because someone said that the best theory I've seen so far, like discount Trump and Mike Pence, but the best thing I've seen about Biden so far is that the Democrats are trying to throw him under the bus so that they can get someone new in for 2024.
So I think there's like two different levels that are happening. There's I'm part of the Security Council insiderness. Like if you are, a director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, if you're the National Security Advisor, if you're the Vice President of the President, like these documents follow you around because you're working on them constantly. And like, you take vacations, you visit home, you do stuff like that. So these boxes come along, you read these documents, put in a box, whatever. And as long as you're part of this interior security apparatus, you got this classified level. Yes, like wherever you are, you need those documents because your job is 24/7, right? So I think there's some of that. There is some of like, your office at the Naval Observatory where your home is when you're vice president. You've got an office in there and stuff goes into folders. And, when you got one day to pack and get everything out because the next guy's coming in on January 20th at noon, right? So you got to pack all these, throw stuff in boxes and you just move, right? There's no one from the National Archives whose job it is to go through each one of those documents as you're moving, make sure, this one actually can't go. What they have is they've got a general idea of what should be left behind. And unless it's like something really glaring, it can totally get missed. So I could totally see, like 5 documents, whatever that Pence had, and 10 that Biden had, whatever the numbers are. I can see that happening. Trump is a different animal because it looks like Trump purposely took these documents. And then when National Archives is like, whoa, there's like 300-400 documents missing, and these are very, very high security. Trump, can you check and make sure if you have them or not? And Trump's like, don't have them. My lawyer even signed something saying, do not have them. And the National Archives is like, but we think you still have them because these are very high priority documents and they're missing, and you're the only person who could have them. We think you have them. Trump's like, nope. I checked. I looked everywhere. Not there. And so then the FBI, they got a subpoena. FBI went in. FBI's like, oh, yeah, nope, he has them. And there's still some missing. He had them in this unlocked storage room at his resort that's frequented by a whole bunch of international spies.
We have the best security. It's fine.
And it, we've got, it's on record that Jared Kushner was giving classified information to the Saudis.
Yeah, I saw that. Fucking hell.
And, he took $2 billion of the money to open up his own hedge fund. So, cool. Saudis just paid $2 billion for this. It's very, very likely based on like some of the documents that were found. And the FBI is like not saying specifically what they were, but they're like, yes, there were documents that detailed a particular country's nuclear program. I'm like, oh, Iran, maybe? Could have been for Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia hates Iran. Oh, weird. Trump is now hosting this giant, expensive international golf tournament that's owned by Saudi Arabia. It's playing at all of his Trump golf courses, and he's getting tens of millions of dollars out of this. Like, there's some sketchy stuff. I mean, the fact that he was making, just from the Chinese government, was renting empty floors in Trump Tower for $5 million a year while he was president, right? The nation of Qatar would book $100,000 a week in hotel rooms at his hotel in DC. Like, there's some shady stuff going on there, and that, I think that's different than like, oh yeah, there's a box in my garage, and of the 400 documents, there's 5 of them that shouldn't be in there. We discovered, like, that's
Yeah,
like,
his reaction was not a good look though, man. Like it's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
he's like, the garage is locked. Don't worry about it. It's like, no,
yeah,
you
yeah,
should
yeah,
probably take this a little more seriously, man. Like,
yeah. And
yeah,
the way the national security laws say is, like, if you discover these documents, you notify the archives and you return them, and that's what they did. Which, technically at that point, okay, you obeyed our requirements. There you go. I do think that there probably should be a National Archives liaison, or someone whose entire job it is to make sure that when people move out of the White House or out of the Naval Observatory, like, those documents get vetted, and just in general, like, don't take any documents with you. They
I
all
mean,
belong to the National Archives, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. And then the National Archives go through and be like, okay, it's been a year since you left office. We've gone through them, and this is a birthday card you received from your grandkids. This is whatever, but like anything else is government related, and then we're just gonna put it in our storage facility and let the nerds go through it when they're writing their books 100 years from now.
yeah. Former
So
presidents, well, former government officials in any capacity probably should not still have documents. That
yeah,
just feels
yeah,
like a bad idea. Just
yep,
just straight off the bat. But
yeah.
anyway,
Like, so
yeah.
it's. I think one thing we'll get out of it is we'll get a change in how the National Archives has access to, a president, vice president as they're moving out, right?
Well,
And then, and if there's if they have these documents, how many, like, former
yeah, that's
CIA
my
chiefs or
fucking question.
CIA
That's my
chiefs,
what's
or
my question? Is like, who the fuck else has
yeah,
this just lying around? Like,
yeah. I mean, you got dudes like Mike Flynn, who is a straight up Russian asset, who got fired for the Obama administration for being a Russian asset, who then became the national security advisor to Trump briefly before he got fired again. Those dudes can't be trusted.
yeah,
We just discovered that the FBI agent who was put in charge of the Russia investigation with
yeah.
Trump
Was
was in
a fuck
fact a
a
Russian
Russian
agent.
asset? I was like, oh, you're fucking kidding me. And
So,
yeah, and then what's his face? Fucking Eric Swalwell. He was on the national. Was it the National Security Council or the Intelligence Committee? That's what it was. And he fucking was like, he was fucking some Chinese agent.
yeah, he totally got honeypotted by a Chinese agent. Yeah, so, like, this stuff happens all the time. My sister is, well, she's a Navy intelligence. She's high up. She's a captain. She's being tapped for admiral. When you're in those positions, you go through these classes that teach you about how to, like, avoid being trapped by a competing spy agency, right? And so her husband he was a president of a local college, and he got a Fulbright scholarship to go to Russia and to go, like, tour colleges there and learn how the Russians do this stuff. This is probably 2000, I don't know, 17, 2018, somewhere in there. And so she sat him down. She's like, you're not taking your phone. We're going to buy you a new iPad that you're not going to be able, I'm not letting you log into your Facebook or Instagram or anything else. Like, if you want to take pictures or have access to the internet, this is a one-off, and we're going to destroy this thing when you get back. And he was like, why? He's like, just listen to me. You're going to be in your hotel. You're going to go down to the hotel bar for a drink, and you're going to discover at the hotel bar some guy decked out head to toe in University of Washington hat, shirt, like, whatever. And they're going to strike up a conversation with you. And they're a Russian agent. They are not from Seattle. They did not go to school at the University of Washington. Like, they are there specifically to get you to talk to them so they can get to me. And he's like, this is bullshit. She's like, just do what I'm telling you to do. Just do it. Just do, like, don't fuck around on this. This is a big deal. I'm a captain in the Navy. Right? I know things that people aren't allowed to know. I've got security clearances that presidents don't have. Like, just shut up and just do what I say. Fine, whatever. He calls her like day 2 in Russia. He's like, you wouldn't believe it. At the bar was a guy head to toe in University of Washington gear who was talking about like he's got a conference next month in Seattle and our family should get together. I was like, she's like, yeah, that's a Russian agent. That is a guy who's trying to compromise you to get to me. Say no. So at that point forward, he was just freaked out for like the next month he was in Russia. It's like everywhere he went was somebody who's like, oh, yeah, I go to Seattle all the time. You and I should get to, our wives should meet. Like, so, elected officials don't go through this stuff. They don't learn these things. Like, you got dudes like George Santos, who might not even be an American citizen. We have no idea what the hell that dude's all about. Right. And like anyone could become an elected official and all of a sudden have security clearance if you're elected. Mm-hmm. You don't go through a class where you learn about counterintelligence and securing data and, making sure you're using like secured phones, communication channels and stuff like that. They just all of a sudden like, well, this is how you pass a bill. There you go. Have at it. And so we definitely have a lot of vulnerability in our elected officials. Let's face it, a lot of them are sociopaths, a lot of them are psychopaths, a lot of them are narcissists. You present a pretty lady to them. Yeah, a lot of them idiots. You present a pretty lady to them, and they're going to be like, sweet, I can put my dick in it. And you get ladies like Maria Butina. I don't know if you read about her. So she came from Russia. I think Dmitry Firtash was the Ukrainian-Russian dude who was funding her. And she laundered like $80 million into the NRA, the National Rifle Association, which then dispersed this money to politicians. So it was an illegal money laundering operation to get
this.
Yeah. And she was fucking every Republican she possibly could. She had an affair with a congressman from South Dakota, and and she got arrested for being a spy and sent to prison. And we did some sort of prisoner exchange with Russia, and now she's back in Russia, and she's like a member of the Duma now, like a hero of Russia for compromising so many American congressmen. But like so many congressional campaigns got funded almost directly via this Russian mafia money that came out of the Kremlin. And that was her job. 2016, she spread $80 million around and was just fucking every congressman she could. So, it's old school. It's stuff. If this was 1985, we would have had an apparatus there to make sure it wouldn't happen, because we're so focused on like digital espionage that like the classic hard intel of human to human contact, we've seems we've lost complete track of it.
Yeah.
And also the FBI agent who got busted for being a Russian agent, he was also in charge of an investigation because we had a whole bunch of spies that all of a sudden were dying and disappearing around 2010. And he was the agent put in charge to investigate, like, why is this happening? And it seems likely that it was happening because he was the one giving up their names.
Man, so you couldn't fucking write this shit.
I know.
If you put that in the TV show, you'd be like, oh, there's no way he'd be appointed. Like,
exactly. That's like the Homeland type stuff you see in the TV shows. Like, and, dude, it's wild. It's on another level that like, there's got to be a come to Jesus moment, I think, for the U.S. intelligence community, especially because we are just dropping the ball left and right on these things, and because we're so focused on the digital that we just no longer have the human
intelligence
and like human intelligence, and we politicize a whole bunch of it. I mean, think back to Scooter Libby and Dick Cheney when they outed Valerie Plame, right? So George Bush Jr. says Iraq is making weapons of mass destruction. They're going to release these chemicals and biologicals and nuclear. And then they tap Valerie Plame as a CIA agent to go investigate it. She goes her husband, Peter Wilson. What was his first? I can't remember. Tap him. He's an ambassador to like do this investigation. He does the investigation. He's like, no, they don't have the capability of doing this stuff. There's no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And then Dick Cheney's like, his wife works for the CIA. And she's like, I am a knock. I have assets all over the world. No one is supposed to know my identity. And now they know everything. And then all of a sudden her assets start getting assassinated all over the world. And like, there's something in a lot of elected officials that they just don't seem to take these things very seriously. That, like, there's kind of a balance. There should be some sort of, I don't know, loyalty to the nation, and the fact that you've got hostile other nations that want to destroy everything you have. And granted, you guys are like, everyone's fighting against it all the time. I wish there was more peace than that, but like, you can't negotiate with Russia. You can't. Like, Putin will say something and then just do the opposite because he doesn't care. Like, what are you going to do about it? I have nuclear bombs. So you need to have these.
Most of us in the West are literally the same. We're just as fucking bad about it.
Exactly. So
no, we won't move NATO bases west of Berlin. We wouldn't do that. No.
Yeah. So we so like it doesn't do the Western governments any service when like you're burning your spies, and you might have a Dutch intelligence officer who would love to give information to the U.S. government, but is scared that perhaps they're going to get outed by some random ass congressman from East Bumfuck who, overheard something in a meeting and was like, and then, blabbed it to their mistress. We tighten that ship up more. It's all just a mess.
It stuns me that they don't get training on this. Because you'd think, because they get training on a bunch of
blows
stuff.
My mind. Yeah. They get no training whatsoever. They go through this class before they get before they enter Congress on like January 3rd. They go through this class. It's like, okay, this is how you write a bill. This is how you pass a bill. This is the Robert's Rules of Order. They do those things, but they aren't like, okay, when you are on the campaign and you're at the hotel bar, you are going to be met with a Chinese agent who's really hot and she's going to want to sleep with you. And you're going to have to go, sorry, hot lady, not today. Because you are a spy.
Or if you're really smart, you say yes, and then literally tell them the most bullshit things that you can possibly imagine.
Exactly. And then you let the FBI know, like, hey, dude, I totally scored with this hot spy. I told her all this bullshit. So if you start seeing this stuff spread around on the chatter channels, that was me. Like, then you can be a hero. Yeah.
Turns out the Lincoln Monument, there's actually a rocket inside it.
Yeah. And an ICBM in there. Yeah.
That would actually be really funny. If you knew you were being honeypotted, or like, I don't know, if you knew you were being like fucking filmed by Project Veritas, and see what sort of wild shit people would believe, that would be really fun.
Well, that's what Russia was started doing. Did you ever read the Winds of Change documents that were coming out of Russia during this Ukraine war recently?
Don't think so.
So really fast. So there's a battle happening within the FSB in Russia over the war in Ukraine. There's a whole group. They're like, this is fucked up. We should never have done this.
Yeah.
We want Putin to go down. And so they were sneaking these intelligence documents to some journalists in Europe. Like, hey, this is what's happening internally. These are the struggles. These are the players. Yeah. And so Russia started, they were trying to find who's the spy who's leaking all this information about, like, oh, this is when we're going to invade. This is the troop movements, whatever. And so they started like telling different things to different members of the FSB to try and see what got passed along to the Americans and to these journalists. And whoever it was high enough up, they knew who was getting what information. And so eventually this woman made it to, I think, France to declare asylum. And she's like, I am Winds of Change. I can no longer be passing these things along because it's getting too dangerous for me. But for 8 months, she managed to take all this intelligence data the FSB had and was passing it along to these journalists in Europe. And, but what Russia was trying to do was like, we're going to, okay, you, Igor, we're going to tell you this one thing that we're doing. And then you, Boris, we're going to tell you, and you, Svetlana, we're going to tell you. And then to see, like, okay, we told 100 different stories. Which one popped up in these articles by these journalists? And
someone's been watching Game of Thrones. You must still be able to get HBO in Russia.
Yep. Yeah.
That is a pure Tyrion move.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I gotta run because I have.
Yes.
I'm going to get dinner with some friends of mine because I'm back home here for 2 weeks, so I'm seeing some people that I haven't in a while. So,
all right.
Thank you very much. This has been wildly fun and educational as ever. Is there anything you want to plug before we finish?
I guess, swing by my YouTube channel. We're talking about this bullshit all day long. And so it's youtube.com/Houston Wade. Follow my Twitter at the Houston Wade, and swing by my Reddit. It's r/Houston Wade. So visit, chit chat, send me DMs. I try to answer everybody who sends me a message. I can do that until maybe I get too many followers or something. But I spend most of my day answering people's DMs. That's my job. It's what it is now. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. It's always fun.
No problem,
and I love the diversity of topic that we're hitting.
Yeah, lots of great stuff. But
yeah.
I will put links in the description for everyone. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy dinner.
Hey everyone, thanks for making it right the way to the end of the podcast. I love that you tuned in this long. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, because 80% of you bastards are not subscribing, but you're watching my videos. See you next time.